And we're back again. My name is Shawn from DevoApparel.store, and this is Inspired Conversations. And today I have a very special guest with me. Jekasole's here today. How
What's
are you
good,
doing?
everybody? Sean, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yes. We were supposed to do it live, but I suck because I have car issues. That's what happened there. That's what happened there. I failed. But I'm glad that we were still able to do this through Zoom. And so to get started, I really just wanted to start with the first question. Why music?
Great question. So, at least for me, it kind of just started off as I would just see a lot of my older cousins do it around me. And growing up, I was the oldest. Like I still am the oldest out of my two siblings. So it was like everybody that I kind of hung around was usually my older guy cousins. So I kind of wanted to mimic like what they were doing. I thought it was pretty cool. Um, then as I got a little bit older, life happened and I started doing more so like spoken word, but I really was interested in trying to figure out how to rap. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, how do I do what you guys are doing to like a beat?
Yeah.
And it got to the point where my cousin was like, all right, I'm going to challenge you where every day you're going to write me something, even if it's like two lines. And, he showed me how to properly measure like verses and all these other things and do counts. So I was just like, okay. But as far as for me with music, it became a way for me to express myself because granted, as articulate as I am, it does get very hard for me to express myself with words. So it's just like I felt like with music, it's like the world is your canvas. You kind of just let it flow, whatever it is that you feel, and there's like no judgment there, at least from myself and stuff like that. So music just became more so like just my outlet to for me to express myself when I was trying to figure out what I was feeling, what I was trying to say, and it kind of just became like my go-to whenever I needed to express myself.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me because that is the first question. Like everything else about this show is kind of off the cuff and just whatever comes up, comes up. There's pillars that we work off of, but it just kind of just happens. But I always ask the why music question. And the reason is because it's the same answer, but it's always in a different way. And what I mean by
Yeah.
this is that I feel like at the end of the day, whether you're passionate about basketball or your passion is music or your passion is poetry or your passion is building houses, I don't know. Whatever your passion is, it's all of that same feeling of it's my outlet. It's
Yep.
what gives me breath. It just makes me feel like I'm on top of the world, right? Like that is the idea of it being your passion because your passion is linked to your purpose, right? Like I said all the time on this show that you can never use the gift that the giver has given you if you don't recognize one that you have a gift, right? And so whatever
Yeah.
that passion is, your purpose is locked in that passion because that's how you're supposed to express yourself to the rest of the world. And so I
Yeah.
always love asking the why music question because I want people on the show or people watching the show to realize that that's where it starts. It starts with finding your outlet. What gives you breath?
Yep.
What makes you feel like you're on top of the world? What puts wind in your sails? That kind of all those little cheesy expressions. So you mentioned it being an outlet, and I feel the same way. Like when I got into oh, I was telling you off camera, I started. I don't really say this a lot on the show, but I started preaching when I was 13. I preached my first message when I was 13. When I was experiencing everything that I experienced as a kid, there was always one thought in the back of my mind. It was, I have to get through this so that I can show others who are going through this that there's hope. That was
Yep.
like the one thought. And until that clicked in my mind, because the worst thing to think is that your pain is pointless. But if you can find purpose in your pain, that'll be all you need to get through it, right? So the moment that I could realize, all right, wait a minute, I can channel all of this, right? And then this is when the giver was showing me that there was a gift. There was a speaking gift. There was I don't prepare anything. I can just go off the top of my head. That's a gift. That's not something that I developed. That's not something that was trained. That wasn't, it's just in there. And it's up to
Yeah.
me to draw it out. And it amazes me how the struggles in life is what draws it out. So when you were saying like you felt like it was your outlet, and even though you're articulate, it was hard for you to express in other words, but then you find this art form, right? You find poetry, and then it leads you into, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what hip hop and rap is. It's poetry, just in a different way. And it
Yep.
amazes me too, whether it's a fun song or it's a club song or whatever. I'm not hip with today's lingo, but whatever it is, if it's a bop, I don't even know if that's still a thing. It probably isn't now that I said it.
It
But you
is.
know what I mean? If it slaps, if it
Yeah, I
whatever
was gonna
it
say, I was like,
is, if it does that, it still oftentimes comes from that place of it being an outlet. Like just because you're not writing a song that's super deep doesn't mean that you aren't super deep, right? It
yeah.
doesn't mean there isn't a lot of emotion going into that song, even though it's quote unquote happy. And so, anyways, I love asking that question. So, when did this passion become a career move for you? Like, when did it start to become that dream where it's like, this is what I want to do? Because I'm assuming that's the journey we're on, right? That this is absolutely it.
So it started once I actually got into college. Um, More so it was like my sophomore going into my junior year of college, where it was just like, this is what I want to do because I'm realizing the stories that I'm able to share. It, like you said earlier, it gives people hope. Like it lets them know that regardless of what's going on in my life, because they're only looking from the outside in, it's like everybody has a story, but
Mm,
the same way that, God has been able to manifest himself in my life, he can do it in yours too.
mm,
And it makes me no more special than you are. And that's kind of just where it kind of just did for me, because at that time it was more so I was trying to figure out what kind of music I wanted to do. Because even
mm-hmm,
though I never made any music that had like profanity in it, it wasn't always like deeper or deeper than the surface. It was more so very like whatever you heard on the radio, whatever was
mm,
hip, and I was like, I want to do more. I want to be able to actually talk about stuff where people hear it and they're like, I can identify myself with it.
yeah.
Because I started realizing that's the type of music I like. I like to listen to artists that I can identify myself with, whether it's the entire form of the song or just certain parts of the song where I'm like, I feel this in my soul.
Yeah.
Um, and basically, it's just, I would say more so like in the middle of my sophomore going into my junior year of college is when it became like, this is what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I know it's a lot more strings attached to it when you're trying to pursue something like this, but I was like,
Mm,
God, we're going to do it.
love
And
that.
crazy enough, it's like still trying to do it. And, a lot of people don't really understand. They're like, especially like when you're not signed by a label or have the financial backing of somebody else
Mm,
and everything's coming directly from your own pocket, it can be stressful. It can be,
mm-hmm,
all these different things where it's just like, one, you get caught up in numbers, you get caught up in, you know, am I being seen enough so that people can
mm,
still know that I'm here?
yeah.
And it becomes like more of like a youth thing. And that's kind of like, at least for me, I always try to put in the front of my mind that once I start to feel like that, that's when I know, okay, I need to take a step back,
Mm,
because it was never supposed to be a me thing.
mm,
It was more so just supposed to be, I am the vessel and God is the answer. um and that's just kind of just how I viewed it. And even now, like, moving forward, um like, with everything that's going on from the pandemic, where everybody was able to do so much in the middle of
yeah.
that pandemic, whether it was like putting out like 4 or 5 albums, singles every week, this, that, and the third. And it's just like people started, figuring out how to do certain things, making their own stuff. For me, it was a little bit different. But at least on my journey right now is more so like I'm on the pathway of learning how to like do my own production and eventually like edit my own videos and stuff like that, because I'm getting to a point where I just want to be not necessarily a one man show, but I want to be able to put myself in a position where if I want to do something, I don't have to wait for somebody to do it.
Yes.
Granted, if I have someone that comes along, is like, hey, I just want to help enhance this, and we can go from there. But it's not more so like I'm just waiting and be like, okay, guys, so what are we gonna do now? It's like, no, it's like we got like God, we got this, that, and the third, and then anybody else that you bring along, like they're just gonna add to the fire like we
Hmm.
already have. So
Do you have a mic by
I have
you?
my headphones.
Oh, I was hoping you could drop one, like you could drop a mic. You get the
Oh,
reference because that was really good. Like, daggum. Like, there were so many times where I wanted to stop you, but I was like, I just gotta keep letting her go because you was going off there, and not just for a second. Because I was about to say for a second, it was for a hot second. Man, there's so much there, and I don't know where I want to start to unmind all that. Like, man,
I'm sorry. It's
no,
like I
no,
get
no, it's
into the
good. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what it's supposed to be. I'll say first, I'll start with I love your approach to it. Like you said, once you started to realize what type of music you were supposed to make, right? Like what connected with you and what would ultimately connect to your audience. Because here's the truth. Trends come and go, right? Like right now, everyone's dressing like they did in the 90s. Like if
yeah,
any of these kids have seen Saved by the Bell, that's how people are dressing right now. Like the Zach Morris, all that, like that's how people are dressing right now.
yep,
It just repeats itself. Trends come and they go. So if you're always chasing trends, you're gonna be hot 1 minute, and then where are you at now? And it's no
yep.
disrespect if that's what people want. You know what I mean? But you'll get a Gucci gang, and then you won't have anything else.
It,
No
it,
disrespect. I'm just saying it comes
no,
and it
it's the
goes.
truth.
So if you make music that resonates with people, and it's not just music, whatever you do, if you touch people, the reason why Michael Jordan is still revered is because people like they were touched by that in some way, whether it was his work ethic, it was his dedication, it was whatever. It's nostalgic. He still has fans to this day, right? Same thing
Yep.
with Kobe Bryant, same thing with LeBron James. Just use basketball. Artists like NF, the reason why he has a crazy following is because he connects with people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the reason why he's able to beat out Chance the Rapper for the #1 album. Like, there were people I was watching blogs. They were like, "Who's this dude? Like, like who is this guy? He came out of nowhere." And it's like, no, his fans know who he is because he made
Yeah.
music that connected with them. And it's all to say, like, I love that. I love that. That's what made you
Approach.
realize this is what it is. And then you said the whole thing. Say that again about God being the answer. It's not about you, but it's about what'd you say?
God being so,
A
at least for
vessel.
me, it's just like I'm just a vessel.
Mm.
I'm letting you know the same way that he's used me and he's done miracles in me. It's like he can do the same, but I'm not the answer.
Mm.
Because that's what it ends up becoming, where it's like people tend to make it where it's like you have all these answers and this, that, and the third, and it's like I don't have the answers, but I can
Mm.
point you to the answer.
It's
Because I'm
powerful.
I'm a I'm a human being. So, and at that point, it's just, at least for me, like I said, is once I recognize that, I'm like, you know what, there are a lot of people that feel or have felt the way I felt.
Mm.
And I'm realizing where it's like the pain, the purpose and the pain, where it's just like all these things happen. And it's like there was a saying that my pastor always says. He's like, your testimony is not for you, it's for those that hear you and those around you.
Mm.
Because sometimes when we walk through life, you're the only Bible or you're the only description of Jesus that people know.
Yeah.
So it's just like your testimony is never really for you. It's for the person next to you. It's for the person you meet in the next season of your life, whatever it may be. And that's kind of like the mindset that I stuck to, because like at the end of the day, I was like, I'm not looking to be the best female artist out here and whatever, whatever. I'm really more so just looking to, one, make great music, be able to resonate with people and being able to be happy with what it is that I'm creating,
Hmm.
you know. And I think
Yeah.
that's a struggle that every artist goes through, where it's like you get to this momentum where it's just like there's such an expectation on you, so it's like, okay, do I keep making this type of music, or do I switch over to this type of music,
Mm.
or this, you know, what's people talking about now, can I make it relevant, XYZ. And it's just like, at least for me, it's more so just kind of just remembering like this, they liked you because they could resonate with you. As long
Yes.
as you keep that the same,
Mm-hmm.
that
They're gonna
they'll
rock with
stay.
you. Yeah.
Exactly, they'll stay. And that's kind of just what it is. And it's like, as a creative, you kind of, you everybody falls in that season where it's like you start to compare yourself, you start to compare whether it's your accolades, whether it's you know, certain things you accomplished, haven't accomplished, um if you gotten any recognition, you know, who's recognizing you,
Mm.
this, that, and the third. And then it just becomes like a numbers game. And that's a terrible place. That's a terrible feeling, because it's just like, it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said it earlier, it's like, as an independent artist, you're putting all your hard earned money into what it is that you're doing. So, like, to go ahead and judge what it is you're doing to the person next to you and stuff like that, it's not fair to you or the path that God is giving you
Yeah.
as your, you know, you as the person. So it's like, that's kind of what I'm teaching myself and learning, is just like, it's okay for everybody's path to look different.
Yeah.
Because everybody's journey is going to look different. But, you know, the destination, if you're, you know, with the right people and this, that, and third, and you guys are all like-minded, and it's like everybody has the same
Yeah.
destination. Where, at least for me, my dream is to be able to do music full time, but being able to support not only myself, but any future family that I will have, you know? So it's just like,
Yeah.
everybody's caught up in the, what is it? I need to have like a million streams here, a million streams there. And my biggest focus now is really just trying to get into like sync licensing. So like TV, film,
Yeah.
um, you know, stuff like that. Like, that's more or less what I'm looking at. But it is a little bit more harder, because it's just like, unless you are connected, you know, to the right people, or you actually go ahead and you do all this research and you're able to find some connections and build those relationships, and it's like, okay, now is when things start to move. But that's ultimately my dream. It's like, I'm not trying to be the next, who is it? Who's really big right now? I'm not trying to be like anybody like Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, where it's just like they're just everywhere. Everybody knows who they are. This, that, and the third. I'm perfectly fine with nobody knowing who I am. Only like the people who rock with me,
Yeah.
and just being able to support myself and my family. Like, I'm totally okay with that. I get
Yeah.
to keep my privacy. You know, like, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. Um, but like I said, whether you have your privacy, whether you don't, it's a battle as a creative that you will always face. Because you can feel very small when you start judging your path to other people.
Mm.
And it's like, you don't give yourself the grace for God to do something
Yeah.
like that'll blow your mind. And that's what I've been learning these past few years. So I'm just like, you know what? God was like, you go ahead and do your thing, from putting on my first project to uh, basically putting out my first single as a rebrand for my sound and everything, to becoming a Rapzilla freshman, when in reality I only really stepped into this space like that maybe about 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
You know, like, granted, like I said, it's like, if I'm being honest, I didn't know CHH was a thing until like the ending of 2019. And that's like when I went to my first like CHH event. It was a Rapzilla event that they had in Atlanta for A3C, and that's kind of like where I got to see like, oh snap, like, you guys can get pretty turned and not be, you know, intoxicated or drugged up or anything like that. Because
Or
I
corny.
never think that was
Or corny.
possible, or corny.
Because that's
And
the
it's
rap it
like,
gets sometimes, is that it's corny.
exactly. And it's just like, oh, okay. And then, like seeing that people can make the same type of music that you would hear on the mainstream station, but this time it's like they're giving you substance. They're
Yeah.
speaking life. They're, you know, allowing for themselves to be transparent so people can identify, as opposed to half the stuff we do here on the radio where it's like, I can't resonate with spending X amount of dollars on this or X amount of that or doing this and doing that. Um, and it just like I said, at least for me, I was like, okay. But at the same time, it was like I never looked to be like, I want to be the biggest thing in CHH. I was like, no, I want to be as honest and transparent in my music, and with myself, to let people know that I'm an imperfect person
Mm.
that loves and serves a perfect God. And the same way that He's done miracles in my life, He can do it in yours if you gave Him that opportunity. But again, without me feeling like I'm pushing my beliefs onto somebody. Because that's also another thing where it's like, people tend to feel like if they don't believe what you believe, but you start talking about it, it's like you're forcing that. And God never forced Himself on anybody. He gave
Mm.
us all free will. And at least for me, I made that conscious decision a long time ago where it's just like, I don't want to make just generally CHH music. I want to be able to make music that speaks to all the hearts, whether
Mm.
you've been saved, whether you know God, whether you don't.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people always tend to feel like I can't listen to anything that has to do with any form of belief, whether it's Christianity or anything else, if this is not what I believe, which is fair. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, it's just like I never want to put myself in a position where it's like I've put myself in a box where it's like as soon as people hear certain things, it's like, oh, I want to turn it off. And it's like being able to show God in a different way, but not dismissing that you're speaking about Him.
Mm.
Like just being able to do it in a creative way where it's like, wait, hold on, like who is she talking about? And then when they go and they listen, they look up the lyrics, they're like, oh, I ain't never heard nothing like this before. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, let me see what she's talking about. And it kind of just starts the conversation.
Yeah.
Because, as me, though, and like I said, with everything now being solely enhanced with TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, um, if people still use Facebook, you got Facebook. Um, like there's like overpopulated, oversaturated, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, like it even gives creatives like myself where it's like when we go ahead and we try to go ahead and put something out that'll resonate with this generation, that it gives them a reason to be like, I don't want to listen to this stuff on the radio because
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to this where it's actually putting life back into me, and I don't got to worry about getting a clean version or anything of that matter. I could play it around my parents and not have them tell me about myself because of XYZ reasons and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I personally find it awesome when I can have like a parent or something where they're like, my kids don't listen to anything but you because I don't want them listening to that stuff that's out there that's just like pollution to their brain. And I'm like, I'm honored that you'd pick me for your kids to listen to.
Yeah.
And it's just like understanding that it's bigger than me. It's literally for the generation after me.
Mm. Do you have a mic? Do you just you just
I
want to
can
drop that? I mean,
metaphorically just
I feel like I need to get one of my extra ones and just drop it every time you say something.
just be like,
Man, once again, there's so much. All right, so going back to oh man. All right, going back to the part of working on your own, right? And being independent. And I think that's huge because in entrepreneurship, and I always relate this outside of music as well. And it's funny how I'm even interviewing specifically hip hop artists. I don't even know. I mean, I know how I ended up doing that, but it's really
yeah,
unique to me that it became this because at first it started just interviewing entrepreneurs. And then I started looking at the landscape because you were talking earlier. So this is the other way I'm going to bring back to what you were saying. So you were also talking about standing out and being unique and not just following the waves and not feeling like you have to, oh, it's about the numbers. So I got to be doing this. This is what's hot right now. So I got to do this, even though I don't feel that. And then that's how you get burnt out. Now you're comparing yourself to others, right? And so when I started doing what I wanted to do, it was, I know I have a gift, right? And I want to exercise that gift. I want to share that gift because that's when you're truly living, is when you're walking in your purpose. And you can truly live on purpose when you have purpose, right? When you find your purpose. And so I want to express that, but at the same time, I also want to do it in a creative way, right? I don't want to just get trapped in these tropes. And so as I started looking at like, okay, I want to be the biggest motivational brand in the world. I don't want to just be the biggest motivational speaker because once again, you can't pass down speaking to your kid. You can't, like, that's not something you can do, right? Because my son might not be able to speak like that, but I can pass down a company. So let me create the biggest motivational brand. So now it's Devo Apparel. It's clothing that just motivates you and reminds you have purpose in this world, right? That's where it started. And then it was, but I also have this gift for speaking, so I gotta exercise it, right? Like I gotta get it out into the world. And so I don't know why I was doing that. But anyways, I have to get it out. So let me get it out and let me find creative ways to do it. So the pandemic was happening right when I started Devo Apparel. That was the first line of it. So there's no speaking. You can't go to schools and speak. You can't go to, churches. You can't go anywhere, right? So now it's like, all right, I got to get creative. So I start just recording videos like in my house, right? Like just, I set up a recording studio in my house and I have like another set right there and another set right there. And so you can't see any of that. But anyways, it goes around. My point is that I started recording these videos in my house and just putting them out like that. And then I was like, I want to do an interview show. I want to interview people. And I was looking online and there were some people who already do this. But I noticed they interview movie stars. They interview, like other motivational speakers. They'll interview actors but they're not interviewing hip-hop artists. And hip-hop artists at the end of the day are people who turn their dreams into reality. It's the same thing. It's still entrepreneurship. So anyways, connecting all this, not to bore you, but to connect all this, I really loved how you said standing out and not trying to be like everyone else and not comparing your path, right? I mean, it's the same thing. I'm going to quote some scripture here. It's the same thing when Peter asked Jesus, what about John? And what did Jesus say? Because he, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And then he says, well, feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my sheep. And then he tells him how he's going to die. And then he says, well, what about him? Is he going to die like that? Like, what about him? And he says, worry about yourself. You know what I mean? Not verbatim, but the idea is if I want him to live until the day I come back, that's what'll happen. You have a path, and you need to walk down that path. And so I think not comparing ourselves to others is so huge. And that was the reason why I went through that whole spiel about how I started doing what I'm doing, is because I didn't want to just be everybody else. Because the truth is if I try to be Eric Thomas, who's a big-time motivational speaker, I'm going to fail. I don't have his voice. I don't have his, I'm not that big of a dude. I'm pretty skinny. And it's just, it's not going to work, right? And so it's not about trying to be the next person. It's just about walking in your purpose, your passion, and your gifting, and using it to touch someone else, to reach someone else, to inspire someone else. I really believe that's what we're connected to, because the truth is we're all going and living in this imperfect world. We're all imperfect people living in an imperfect world. And when we go the extra mile, when we show compassion, when we let each other know, hey, forget the Instagram filter, you think it's this way, but it's not. I still have these thoughts. I still struggle with this. I still deal with that. And so that's the reason I love the transparency in your music, right? Like I love that so much. You got me going. I'm all over the place. So bringing it back. I love how you were mentioning not comparing yourself, but then also realizing like, hey, I can't compare myself because we're not doing the same thing here. I'm doing it completely independent. They're doing it with budgets. And there are a lot of artists that say they're independent, but they have distribution deals. That means that they get checks when they put these albums out. This isn't 100% independent. You know what I mean? So learning that and realizing that, and then realizing, okay, because the other thing I really love, and it speaks to the entrepreneurship side of it, is I'm all about that. Like, I'm not a one-man show, but I want to, like, I'm not going to wait on anybody. I know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, and I'm going to do it. And if it's just me, I'll do it. I'll make every single shirt. I'll edit every single video. I'll record. I'll drive 12 hours. I'll drive 24 hours. Like, it does not matter. It will happen because I'm going to make sure it happens. And I'll put every single bit of money that I have into this. I'll do without. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do whatever I have to do to make it happen because it's when I feel like I'm living. You know what I mean? Like, it's when I feel like I'm breathing. So, anyways, I loved how you were speaking onto the entrepreneurship side of it. So, what are some lessons you've learned along the way? I mean, you've already shared a lot, but...
I was like, as far as with lessons, it's just like, it's not a bad thing to want to actually get to know people outside of, like, the professional aspect of things before, like, you start working together. And I only say that just because you'll be surprised sometimes where it's like you feel like you and the other person are on the same page, and you work together and you realize it's really not the same page. And you know, it's, if you would have taken that extra step to actually get to know the person, then it's like you would have avoided, like, this whole catastrophe that you're in. But also understanding that you are going to run into people that not everybody's going to be like you, where, you know, they respond to certain things the way that you do. But as long as everybody can come to a compromise where they can still get the job done, that's all that really matters. And then just learning to be open-minded, like, never allowing those to make you feel like what you have to say or what you think is not important, but also not putting yourself in a position where it's like it's your way or the highway, because that's not how you get the dream to work.
That's true.
You know, you gotta be open minded, and that's what I'm learning. That's what I'm still learning. Where it's just like, you know, there are times where me and you know, Maid, Aaron, we won't see eye to eye on certain things, and it's just like, okay, like, why don't you see this? And okay, like, how do you see this? And it's just like, as long as we can get to the understanding, then it's just like, okay, so we see it like this, we see it like this. How can we get to a place where we're both happy, or do we just start from scratch again?
Yeah.
And I think that's super important, because it's just like, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, it's just, you got to have an open mind, but not too open where you become passive and feel like what you have to say or what you think doesn't matter. And keeping those around you that when you have your moments, because you will have them, I have them sometimes where it's like you don't want to say what you think or what you feel, but they'll bring it out of you, and they'll be like, no, 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 like, really, tell me what you feel, tell me what you think, and I'm not going to get upset about it. I just really want to know. And I think that's super important to have, like, people in your corner that's not just yes men. Like, you want people who's going to challenge, you know, the way that you think and how you view things, because that's ultimately how you learn. There is a saying that it says, if you are the smartest person in the room, then you need to go to another room.
That's it. That's it. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Just a thought on that. It's like, man, like, I'm huge on this. I want to write a book on this. You should help me write it. All right, so I want to call it the Starting Five, and here's the reason. I believe that your team is so important. And when I say your team, like, some people are listening to this right now, like, what do you mean team? I ain't got a team. Yes, you do. The people that are in your life that have the biggest influence on your life, that's your team. Whether you call it that or not, whether y'all all work for each other or not, like, it doesn't matter. The people who have the biggest influence on you are your team. And you will become your 5 closest friends. Whether those friends are family, whether those friends are friends or work colleagues, the people you spend the most time with have the biggest influence on you. And you need to check the influence that they have. right? Good or bad. And one of the biggest, and that's why I'm so glad you mentioned this, one of the biggest changes in my life in the past year is realizing that lesson that you were just sharing, that I don't need just a bunch of yes, right? Like I don't need people that just always agree with me. I'm only going to grow, like you said, when I'm not the smartest one in the room. And I've always had a fascination, like I want to grow. I want to know more. I want every perspective. I don't want this is how we've always done it. I want different perspectives. I want to know because I want to grow. And the only way that I grow is if I learn something I don't know. If I'm always doing the same thing that I've always known, I'm always going to have the same results that I've always had. To get new results, you got to do something you've never done before. And so I love this quote, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. And it's so true. And it speaks to that truth that you were saying where it's like, man, you have to get out of that comfort zone because that comfort zone will only give you the same results that you've been having. But when you get outside of it, it's when you find the next level, right? And so that starting 5 has been so huge for me. And another thing is, as I started doing the hard work, because it's hard when you realize you have to change your inner circle. It doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean that you wish harm to them. But when you realize that the people that you're around are the people you become, we refute that when we're kids, when your parents are like, oh, don't hang around them. It's like, no, that's not true. It is. We're sponges, and we become the company we keep. And it's important that we evaluate that and we know why the people that are in our life are in our life, good or bad. And so when I started eliminating the people who didn't need to be in my life, not in a negative way, I'm still friendly with them and nice, they just don't have influence on me anymore, is what I mean.
Yeah.
And when I made that switch, and then I started recognizing everybody's strengths. So then I started going up to all my friends and I said, hey, I want to tell you that I see this gift in you, and I don't even know if you know it's in you, but it's powerful and it has great impact on my life, and I just want to tell you about that. And it was so crazy to me that how many of the people that I would like tell that to and give them their flowers and be like, hey, this is in you, a lot of them didn't know that. Like a lot of them were like, really? And so it was crazy because I'm growing from that gift that they have, and they're growing by me pointing out their gift, which is my gift. You know what I mean? Like I'm an encourager, and I help like encourage people and motivate them. So it's just like I'm telling them that, and now it's getting even stronger. So the friend I was saying like, dude, your creativity is crazy. It's like he's more creative than he was last month, and it's crazy. It's because I pointed it out. You know what I mean? It's just this synergy. So I love that you were saying that because at times it's not always easy to know we need that. Sometimes you want the yes people. You know, sometimes you just want to be vindicated and be like, it's good. Like y'all need to be on board, and everyone just say yes. But sometimes you need that no.
Trust me, I got them no's. I get them. But it helps, and it's just like it's important, and also like making sure the people you do keep around, it's not like that they, like I said, that they feel like they know more than anybody, and it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say. That's arrogance. I don't have room for arrogance. I don't.
I like the way you said that, though. I don't have room for that. Like
I don't have room for arrogance. Like I don't, because it's just like
that capacity. I like it.
I was like, I don't have that. I don't. It's not gonna do anything for me. If anything, it's gonna put us in a.
Real. Sorry, I had to do it. Go ahead.
I know. I don't got the time for it, for real. But it's just like you think about it, and it's just like sometimes you don't even know until you guys get into those conversations where it doesn't even feel like a conversation. At that point, it feels like a debate, or not even so much of a debate. It feels like I'm right, you're wrong. Let me tell you why I'm right, and let me tell you why you're wrong. And
that doesn't work.
That's just unnecessary tension that I don't need in my life.
Yeah, I'm all about removing the tension. Like I don't even know if this is a good way to word it. It hit me, and I'm like, maybe this is right. It's like I want a little bit of friction because I feel like friction is where you grow, but I don't want tension. Yeah. Because tension is negative. I was telling someone, I think it was yesterday, we were talking about boundaries.
Yeah.
what we were talking about with people in our lives. Like you said, I don't have time for that. I don't want that in my life. I don't have room. Carry on is full. Like I'm not dealing with that. Get on with it. Like we were talking about boundaries, and they were having a hard time with it because they were like, I'm not trying to be mean to people. And it's like, look, boundaries come from confidence. When you know your worth, you don't put up with people who don't know it.
Yep.
Right? And but being guarded comes from insecurity because it's the hurt that's putting the wall up. It's not confidence. So there's a difference between being guarded and having boundaries. So
Yep.
there is a healthy form of that. So recognizing that like, hey, the friction's good. Like we're not always going to agree. I need that to grow. But I don't need the tension. I don't need your chest popping out. Like it ain't about that. Like go on. I'm good with that. So
Exactly.
I do like that. And so as we talk about some of these lessons, the obstacles, because lessons come from obstacles. So what are a few obstacles that you've encountered on this entrepreneurial journey, this dream journey? I mean, what have you've already
Um.
shared quite a few of them. I mean, as far as like being the independent artist, trying to come up with the budgets,
Yeah.
self-funded, self-made, which I did want to point out, like, I think that is a journey that's different because at the end of the day, you own all that. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah, anyways, that's something different, but I love that. I'm all about ownership. I
um.
love it.
Let me see. Obstacles. I would say. I guess some of the most important ones is just like understanding that you're always going to be looked at, no matter what. Like whether you're doing it right, whether you're doing it wrong, somebody's always looking at you.
Mm,
Um. So it's just like making sure that everything you do, like you always do it with excellence, even if you don't know what you're doing.
mm,
Um, because somebody's watching, and I kind of just take it from the perspective of like I have younger siblings. My mom, as annoying as it was growing up, it was always like you need to be mindful of what you're doing because your brother and your sister will follow. And
mm.
I'm like, but why? Like,
But
why would they
why?
follow me? Like,
Yeah.
they should learn from my mistakes. And she's like, but 9 times out of 10, they're gonna follow you because you're setting the example.
Mm,
So it's just like I've just come to learn where it's like I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna be the answer. I'm not gonna be perfect, but it's just being able to do everything that I do with excellence. Where even if I fail, I can look at you in the eye and say I gave it everything I had.
mm.
And if it didn't work, it's just time to rebuild. And if
Yeah.
there's no point in rebuilding, then it's starting a new dream. Um, Gratefully, you know, I haven't had to start a new dream yet. It was just the way to get there
Yeah.
is the formula that always changes in the different seasons. Um, so at least for me, it's just like always recognizing that someone's watching. So just do everything you do with excellence. Um, and then secondly, is just always having that reassurance with yourself of who you are,
Mm.
not because of what people tell you who you are,
Yeah.
but like who is it that you honestly see yourself as, and being able to gauge that for yourself so the days that come where you don't hear those affirmations from those people because
Mm.
of whatever reason, you're not put into a place of depression because you're like, oh, nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, nobody wants to talk to me, this, that, and the third, because it's a real thing,
It is. It is.
it's a very real thing. So it's like, at least for me, this is like a season for me in my life where I feel like that's what I'm learning to do for myself. Like I've gone from being in a position where I was very much active within everything I did when I was going to school to now where it's a little bit more on a professional level of things where I do have a 9 to 5, and then afterwards is like I do come home and I try to go ahead and work on, what I'm doing as far as my actual career, which with music. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like trying to find the time for that, making sure that I meet deadlines that I set for myself, and being
Yes.
able to be like my own source of encouragement because it's just like 9 times out of 10, I don't have people calling me all the time to tell me certain things. It'll come at the randomest moments, and I'm always
Mm-hmm.
grateful for those moments.
Yeah.
But it's just like the moments where I'm like doubting or whatever, I look into the mirror and I'm like, okay, it's just like, who are you? Like, who is it that God told you who you are? You know, how do
Yeah.
you see yourself? And I kind of just line it up. It's like how God sees me and how I see me. And if it doesn't align, then I go ahead and just figure out what parts it is that don't align and start to work on that for myself
Yeah.
because it's important. And it's just like, at least for me, it's like whether you're having like friendships, um, romantic relationships, anything of that matter, it's just like if you're not secure with who you are
Mm-hmm.
and who you know, feel that you are who you're called to be, that insecurity is gonna go into your friendships, into your dating
Yep.
relationships, and it's like it's not fair to all those people.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, God may have placed them to help you work through those insecurities, but
True.
it's also important for you to work on that. And I feel like that's just me in this season of my life where it's like I'm seeing some of the insecurities and it's okay
Mm-hmm.
because it's just like it lets me know like I'm still a human being. I still have humility and it's like God, how can we work on this? Um and it lets me decipher like what's the truth and what's not.
Mm.
So that I can be better for myself. I can be better for myself. I can make great music. And like I said before, I want to be proud of what it is I'm creating.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's me being happy, whether it's me being in a very emotional place, whether it's me being in a very hurt place, a very like confused place. Like I just want to be able to be happy with what I put out, what I create. Um, because at the end of the day, it's it's real. Like
Yeah.
it's real. It's good to do a heart check. It's good to, you know, remind yourself like who it is you are and not just rely on the words and affirmations of other people.
Yeah.
um that's what I've learned for myself. And yeah, that's I would say that's my biggest two obstacles that I've learned within this past time or within this season. Granted, there's some other stuff when it comes to like when streaming first started is like making sure you do the proper research for your distribution, for your publishing, for you know copyrights and all the other
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So it's a lot. Like it's a lot of work and it's a lot of information and it's just like you know making sure you're going to the right place. And Google has all these websites you can visit and then YouTube has all these videos, but it's just like you know, trying to make sure that the information you're getting is correct, but at the
Yep.
same time someone's formula that works for them may not work for you. And
That's
that's
it.
the reality. It's like, you know, you can do all these things, check them off your box, and it's like you still don't have the same results as the person next to you. And it's like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Like me right now, I think one of my biggest thing is like being able to decipher more as to when it comes to marketing dollars, like where it is to put it to get, you
Yeah.
know, the most gain from the most ROI from your investment. So it's just like you want to see where your dollars are going. You want to see like nowadays everybody's like put you on playlists because it's like if you don't have the numbers and it's like you know it's not doing anything and it's like no, like you want to be mindful as to where your money's going and you know what it's going to do for you is if it's actually producing results, and if it's not, like you know what do you have to do different. Because again, there are so many ways you can make income, but it's just like if you're not educated or you don't take the time to go and educate yourself, you can get a lot of people who take advantage of you.
That's true.
And that's why I'm like, granted, it sucks because it's like a lot of research, but it's worth it because it's just like one, you get to know the basics, and then two, once you start moving in that direction, I'm a very firm believer that eventually you're going to attract the energy that it is you're bringing to the table.
Mm.
And it's like eventually you'll be put in those rooms or be aligned with those people that can teach you something that you probably didn't know, you know? Or maybe even coming across it on like social media where it's like, oh, I didn't know this. This is something new. And that's honestly what I look for every day is, can I learn something new today? Whether it's like for music or for personal life or my professional life, and what I do at work and stuff like that. So it's just like, what did I learn today that I didn't know yesterday?
I'm gonna ask you the question again. Do you have a mic?
I
All
don't.
right. So, yeah, I appreciate you sharing the obstacle of the music or all of those obstacles. And I think, like, through all those obstacles, we see it's extremely relatable. There's no path to bettering yourself, whether it's financially, career, relationship. There is no path to the better you without obstacles, without days where you don't feel like it, without days where you feel like you're losing, where
Yep.
days where you feel like you're hitting a ceiling. It's life. Like it's
Yep.
always going to be like that. There's never just this I've arrived. You know what I mean? But the self-discovery and that journey, and so we can learn from each other's obstacles, right? We can learn from each other's lessons. A lot of times people are quick to share the lesson, but they're not quick to share the struggle. And so on this show, I always love to ask about the struggle. And I expected you, based off your music, to just be totally transparent, and you was. And I appreciate that because, and I'm going to send you this shirt because every time I do an interview, I always give my guests a bunch of free clothes, right? So
Okay.
I got to send you some stuff. But one of them is I have a shirt that says self-doubt sucks. And the reason it
Mm.
is because self-doubt's the only doubt that can stop you. My doubt will not stop Jekasole. The next person's doubt won't stop you. But your doubt will stop you every time.
Will stop you.
When
Yep.
you doubt yourself, it's the worst thing you can do to yourself because in that moment, you're telling yourself that you don't trust yourself. In that moment, you're saying, I don't believe in me. And if you don't believe in you, no one else will. I say it this way all the time. You can't expect someone to do something you won't. So if you don't love you, how in the world can you expect someone else to do it? You're expecting
Yep.
them to treat you better than you treat yourself. And that's just not possible because the energy you put out is the energy you attract. If you walk around feeling like you're not worth much and you have your head down all the time and you just think like you don't bring nothing to the table, that's how people will treat you. And it's not intentional, it's just subconsciously. It's how you present yourself to people. And that's how
Yeah.
people treat you. But if you walk around knowing that you were put on this earth on purpose for a purpose, and you're walking in that purpose, and you have confidence in that, and you're constantly encouraging yourself, because motivation sounds great in the moment, right? It
Yeah.
sounds really good. That's why I hate saying I'm a motivational speaker. It's more about an action speaker. I just want you to take action, because once you put that domino in motion, it helps you to push the next domino and the next domino.
Yep.
Because the truth is every day you're gonna have to walk up and kick that domino over. I just showed my ankle, but you're gonna have to kick the domino over every single day. You're gonna have to do that. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't, like, every day you're gonna have to push it over. Motivation makes it sound easy, but the truth is it's always gonna be difficult. And so we have to be our own advocate. We have to remind ourselves every single day that we're here on purpose for a purpose, and it's up to us to live that purpose. And when we can
Yep.
do that for ourselves and be our own advocate and come in our corners, like, I mean, I'll sit there and I high five myself, just like, man, you got this. Like, you got this. Like, walk like it. Walk in the room like you belong in the room. You
Yeah.
belong here. So when I'm doing the thing that I know is my gift, I don't doubt it. I have moments. I get nervous sometimes. And I don't know when it's going to happen. But the 30 seconds of nerves goes away because I was put here to do this. You know what I mean? And so, and in every aspect of us. So I love that growth, that self-awareness. We need that. We need more discussions about mental health, and not even calling it mental health. Like
Yep.
physical health, mental health, it's health. And we need to be
Yep.
healthy, and we need to work on ourselves, and we need to not put that down. And we don't need to push confidence down either. I mentioned this when I did the interview with Cam. Like, I feel like a lot of times, especially within the church, and I'm not picking, I'm just calling it like it is. We think downing ourselves and self-deprecation is humility, and it's not. It's not. It's not at all. You, like I said before, you can't use the gift the way the giver meant you to use the gift if you don't recognize the volume of the gift you've been given. If you just walk around saying, oh, it ain't much, that's how you're going to use it, that's how you're going to treat it, and therefore you're robbing glory because you're not using it to the level you're meant to use it because you keep belittling it. You keep saying it's not nothing special. It is special. It's a gift. Treat it that way. Don't think it's all about you. But don't let it stop with you either. It's meant to spread through you. It's meant to go to other people. So anyways, really pumped up about that. I don't know why I did a little clap, but I'm really pumped. It's because you don't have a mic to drop. That's the reason. So
metaphorically.
Metaphorically. So yeah, it's so good. I love the obstacles and the journey through them and the growth and the self-discovery, like I said. And then even the part that you were sharing about, you know, realizing that we all have a reign of influence. Like people watching a show, you're pursuing your dream. Maybe it's not that there's fans. Maybe there's not people listening. Maybe it's not people watching. Maybe you're just wanting to be the manager of a company, right? And you're not going to have fans and you're not going to have people watching your videos and stuff like that. But to realize you still have people watching you. We all have a reign of influence. Every single one of us. There are people that I cannot reach. I'll never be able to reach them. It doesn't matter how awesome my speeches are. It doesn't matter how funny I am. Not looking, but just, you know, verbally. It doesn't matter how funny, the corny jokes, all that, the mic drop, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be able to reach them. The reason is because they're not impacted by what I say because I don't have influence on them. But the guy listening right now that just thinks he's an average dude, that person looks up to you. And that person models what they do after you. And so if you don't live to your fullest potential, they ain't either. They're following you. They're following your steps. They're watching you. And to realize, I remember there was a time, and I never knew how to take it. We were all at this event, right? And I had a lot of preacher friends. And I wasn't even, I wasn't speaking. They didn't choose me, you know, whatever. I'm not jealous about it. But I was just there, right? And then my friends, all my other preacher friends are all speaking at this, hosting at this. And then they say, hey, Shawn, will you come up here and pray for us? Sure. So I just get up there, you know. I always pray the same way. I get down on my knees. I have everyone bow, and then I just start praying. And the next day, all of us were eating breakfast. And this guy walks past and says, hey, you're Shawn, aren't you? I said, yeah, what did I do? And he says, I was at this event last night and you prayed. Now, here's the funny thing. All 5 of my friends, I was the 6th one, all 5 of my friends were the ones who hosted the event, preached at the event, like all of that. But the guy recognized me. He didn't recognize any of them, which is really odd, too. Like, I don't know how he didn't recognize any of them. I was like, oh, they were, you know them then. And he was like, oh, I guess I do. And I was like, oh. But anyways, when we were leaving, I said, you know, that is just the idea. And it's not to throw shade at them or nothing like that. It's just the idea of the reason why he remembered me is because I didn't treat the prayer any different than I would preaching, any different than I would if there was 1,000 people there to hear a message that God put on my heart. I was going to be the same version that I was, no matter if I was opening up a door. Like I've always believed in that. Like I feel like, one, we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to always be ourselves and not to feel like we have to be something else for someone else, right? Like I'm not gonna try to preach a sermon when you ask me to pray. Like I know preachers like that to just be like, and Lord, you, and it's like, whoa, man, what are you doing? I asked you to pray. But my thought behind all this, I'm not trying to ramble, but my thought behind all this is just be the same you. Like I remember even my friends in high school would be like, Shawn, why do you always dress up? You're always wearing button-ups, or you're always, that's what I wore at the time. It's like, you're always wearing this. It's like, dude, I just want to be consistent. I want to look the same all the time. I just don't want to be someone different ever. I just want to be me. And part of that was through the self-discovery, because I was the type of person who I lived for other people's acceptance, and I always died from their rejection. I was always crushed when people would reject me. And I was just that kid that wanted to know someone cared about me because I didn't feel like anyone did. And I always wanted to have someone love me because I didn't feel like anyone did. And I just always just want to be accepted. And then I realized that I never would be because I didn't accept myself. I didn't think I was enough. And the moment I realized that was the moment that I could just treat everything the same. There's no pressure. It doesn't matter if there's 5 people or 5,000 or 5 million. I'm going to be the same person because I know who I am. And I'm going to walk in that. And I owe it to myself to walk in that. So anyways, I love this conversation. Super deep stuff. Amazing stuff. So what's next for the journey of Jekka?
So what's next is I have an EP that I'm very much excited to go ahead and share. Granted, it's not probably going to be till maybe sometime, next year. Just for the simple fact is like it's a lot of things that we're working on, a lot of things that I want to finish off, but it's most definitely going to be a journey, and I'm super excited to share that journey with everybody who decides to listen. Um, Very transparent, and it's just like I'm excited at the same time. I'm a little nervous because it's just like I don't know how people are going to react because it's conversations that a lot of people don't want to have, whether it's within the church or just church settings, um and even outside the church. Like a lot of people kind of just don't want to have these conversations, and it's just like I want to have these conversations.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. The project's actually called Growing Pains, so I'm super 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 excited for
I'm
it.
super excited.
And
I dig that title.
yeah, most definitely it's a what's this word? Dang, I really can't think of the word right now.
I've heard
But
the word dang before.
I was like, I don't know if it's the right word where it's like an oxymoron, but at the same
I
time,
get
like
what
I
you're
don't know if
saying
that's the
though.
right word. Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's the right word, but it's very much a cliche where it's just like, the only way you can really grow is by going through the pains and the struggles of life.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and like I said, it's a journey. It's very near and dear to my heart. Just very much like just different experiences that I've seen, that I've been a part of, um, and things like that. So it's just like I'm excited, and the way that I want to share it with everybody, it's different than anything I've ever done before.
Mm.
So that's why I said like I'm excited, and at the same time I'm nervous. But if I want to get something that I never had, I gotta do something I've never done.
There we
So,
go. There we go. That's it. That's what it's about. I love that. So,
um,
are we gonna get a single soon from it, or do you still? Or...
soon enough, but it's like I said, probably not till next year. I know in the meantime, next week, Friday, on the 26th, I have a single coming out with me and 2 of my other friends. One is actually part of my collective. His name is Just Call Me DT. The other one is J Young SFL, and the song is called Fake Love. And basically, it's just talking about how um, no matter where it is that God takes us, it's like you're never going to see the switch up because we know how we got here. And it doesn't matter the amount of accolades, of money, or people that know who we are. It's just like we still see ourselves here in that sense of, you know, everything that's happened for us has just been God and God only. But we are super grateful and humble for those who, recognize the gift that we have
Hmm.
and things like that.
Yeah.
But that one comes out next week, Friday. And then, like I said, as far as when it comes with a single, I already have the single that I want, but I'm just like, I was like, we're just gonna see, because like I said, it's the way I want to present it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if I decide to change my mind later down the road, and this interview comes out, it's like, but she said it was gonna be this, and it's like it turns to something totally different.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a story nonetheless, and I'm excited to share that story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I love the creativity of how people put out because we're literally in a space where you can do anything. However, I mean, there used to be a time, once again, I'm 30-ish, 31, 32, 33. I don't know. It's early 30s. It's not
I was
35. I
like,
don't know.
it's all good.
31, I think. Anyways, regardless, what I'm trying to say is that I come from the era where it was like you had to have 3 verses. You had to have at least 2 to 3 hooks. The song was 3 to 5 minutes long. We're in the era now where you can have 1 verse and no hook.
Yep.
Or
Or
you can
1 minute
have
song.
1 hook. That's it. Just a hook that you repeat 10 times and then the song is a minute and that's it.
Yep.
Or you can do Island Boys. I don't know. You can do anything you want is what I'm trying to say. And people don't know if it's comedy or if it's real or not. You can express. And I love the creative expression where it's just not in that box. I feel like we create on different levels when we don't put a box on ourselves and when we just put it out and we just explore different ways to do things. And so I'm
100%.
really about that. I love that. So I'm excited about this. I love the title, and now you got me curious about I wonder if she's gonna put it out this way because I've always had this idea. But anyways, all right. Anything else you'd like to share?
For the most part, thank you again for having me on the show.
Thank
I
you.
greatly appreciate it. For the most part, anybody that's watching, listening, if you want to stay, connected with me, go ahead, follow me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Jekasole. If you don't know how to spell it, it's Jekagotsole. Granted, everything that has to do with whether it's music, whether it's videos, whatever it may be, show, anything like that, it's always posted on there. Um, for the most part, like I mentioned earlier, new single called Fake Love comes out next week, Friday, November
Awesome.
26th. And then we start the new year where we can go ahead and put out the EP. Granted, I haven't really decided on what quarter of the year yet, but it'll be next year.
Mm,
Um, like I said, it's a bunch of things that I'm doing with it. So I'm excited, but at the same time, like I don't want to rush the process
mm-hmm.
because, like I said, it's a story, and I want to make sure the story
Mm,
is portrayed the way that I want people
yeah.
to see it. And that's also what I'm learning too. It's like not letting people make you feel rushed. Like you have to do it or you lose
Mm-hmm.
them forever. It's like
Mm,
the type of fan base that you build for yourself, what you get your fans accustomed to, is like, that could be detrimental. So it's like me, they know when I do come out, it's always something with substance and something with quality. I'm never just gonna throw them just throwaways, be like, here you go, and just until I come back.
yeah.
Um, and granted, I take a lot of pride in that, not disrespecting anybody who does do that, but at the same time, it's like that's where I take a lot of pride in because it's just like it just feels a little bit more personal for me. Where I can let you guys know, like, hey, this is a place where I was, and you guys
Yeah.
can now see it, and oh dang, like now it makes sense, X, Y, Z, and da 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 da. So I think that's always a beautiful part where people can always be like, okay, now I see why you made us wait. Now I can see why you did this.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, all right, cool. But other than that, that's really all I gotta say. Again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for you know, finding me, listening to the music, and even going into the depths of like going through the catalog of older stuff. So I'm just super grateful. I pray that the Lord continues to bless you abundantly and everything that it is that you do. And anybody else that's watching is just like always keep in mind that if whatever God is putting you, trust that vision He's giving you. There's a reason
Mm,
why He gave it to you and He didn't give it to nobody else.
mm.
Like, do it. Let people look at you like you're crazy. He'll bring
Yes.
those people that are meant to help you build that vision. And
Yes.
that's all I really got to say for anybody that's watching this. Is like,
That's
whatever
good.
vision God gave you, protect it. Like, He gave it to you. There's a reason why He
Yes.
didn't give it to this person and
Ah,
that person.
you're gonna get me going again. Yes, mic drops all around. The social
Mic
medias are
drop.
up top. They're on the bottom too of this video. So please check out Jekasole. Lots of good. It's not just bars and baby hairs. It's
You
preaching.
know?
It's preaching too. It's just all kinds of stuff. So please check her out. Be on the look for the EP, the new single coming out next Friday, What?
Yep.
Give the date though, because I don't know when this is coming out.
11/26.
Okay, 11/26. I didn't look at a calendar. So, anyways,
No, you
11/26. Check out Jekasole's new single.
Black Friday.
Black Friday. There we go.
Black Friday.
Check out the new single. And once again, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. This has been Inspired Conversations, and we are out.
Lately I'm feeling emotions. I promise I'm not off that bullshit. To all of my friends I've been ghosting. Love you but I haven't chosen. I gotta go out and get it. I gotta go out and